Hello everyone. It's been a while since I've actually had a video on the RCF. I've been very busy with a lot of things going on in my personal life, family, career. I'm also doing some work on properties and all that stuff. So it's been keeping me super busy. Today I had over Christmas, I had some time, so I thought I'll make a video on the RCF and a continuation of what I was talking about before. So I think the last time I was talking about RCF and the general features. So I'll probably talk about some general features of the RCF and what some of the design elements that really make up the car that stand out as unique. And then also I'll probably touch on some of the plans I have for the car. Maybe if I can get some time there, and I don't want to make the video too long, but talk about some of the modifications that I have on the car. So I think that probably is going to be a little bit of a separate episode by itself. But anyways, I think the last time I was talking about the spoiler here. So the spoiler here is not really meant for downforce. It just doesn't have that angle of attack. By angle of attack means that when the air comes, and then how steep this angle is going to be, and how the air is going to hit this spoiler, and the angle of deflection that the air is going to have. That's basically your angle of attack. So since you can see the angle of attack is not really that steep, it's not really quite meant for downforce. So what happens is that when the air comes over the roof, there's a bit of a vortex effect on around the trailing edges of the car, right? So the air would go and then it would just circle, so it would create turbulence on the backside. So what this supposedly does is that, from what I read in the engineering documents for RCF, is that it would allow this air to smooth over that and it just flow over, especially at high speeds. So it would just make the car have better slip through the air a lot better. The downforce element, as I think I spoke about it before in the last time, comes mostly from the underbody of the car. So the car's underbody has very flat, all the braces and stuff are very flat on the car. So it allows the air to pass much faster underneath the car. So when air is passing much faster underneath the car and it's flowing with this going over the roof, it's going to actually create a vacuum underneath the car, and it's going to suck the car down. If you saw one of my videos, and you could see, like, even at 145, 150 miles per hour, the car was completely stuck like glue to the ground and stuff. So I think so that's the spoiler. I think the back, it's got the signature F quad exhausts. So these ones are not stock, obviously. These ones are titanium muffler tips. So this is my NVIDIA exhaust, and I think there would probably be an entire, sort of dedicated chapter on that. So my RCF has the carbon fiber roof and the carbon fiber spoiler. So both of these are part of the carbon fiber performance package or something like that. So it's got different names over the years. So I think I usually like to call it carbon fiber performance package. So it has the carbon fiber, and then it's got the torque vectoring differential. Now, going back to the spoiler, the only difference for the RCF is the RCF Track Edition has the higher, the taller spoiler, and that one has a more steeper angle of attack. That one, I believe, gives you significant downforce. I believe it was about 60 or 70 pounds at 125 miles per hour, something like that. So they said that in the press release that it does give you actual downforce. So the brakes on the RCF these are Brembos, just like the ISF had it before. Those were Brembos as well. So although there's Lexus on there, but these are Brembos. But the difference is these were built for the RCF. So they were much larger for the RCF than they were on the ISF. I believe either on the backs or the front, the diameter of the disc is a lot bigger. The front ones here are six piston, and the rear ones are 4 pistons. I believe it was 4 and 2 on the ISF. So these were significantly bigger and stronger brakes than they had on the ISF. And then after that, I mean, these were designed for the racetrack. And then the GSF is the only other car that inherited these brakes from the RCF. So and then the brake pads are high friction brake pads. So they're meant for racetrack where you just lap around the track all day, and then they would still hold up, right? They won't start to fade, or they won't start to go squishy, or then they just complete. I've used them pretty extensively in long sessions, and they just never give up or never start to fade, or start to weaken out. So and the wheels I have these are called the 20 spoke wheels. So I really like these wheels. These ones are split spokes. You can see they're split. There's one angled inwards and one angled outwards. These are hand polished, and then these are forged aluminum. So even though they're forged aluminum, that means that they're very strong, but they're not really that light. So I think and then they have a lot of, you can see there's a lot of dust, gray dust on it. My car is pretty dirty as well because it's been just sitting and doing nothing for the last few months over the winter. So they're about 27 pounds on the back and 24 pounds on the front, I believe. So it's pretty heavy. You could always reduce wheels. I believe the Track Edition has lighter wheels, so they reduced quite a lot, about 170 pounds or something on the car, and a significant of that, it was about 40 pounds reduction on the wheels alone. 40-50 pounds. I think it was probably about 40-50. And then also the brakes as well. The RCF Track Edition has the carbon ceramic brakes. So the biggest advantage of carbon ceramic brakes is that they would take punishment a lot better than these slotted rotors. That these ones are really good on the racetrack, but obviously the other advantage of carbon ceramics is they are lighter as well. So you shed quite a lot of weight by going carbon ceramics on there. So those are some of the key differences. And then the torque vectoring differential on the back. So I believe it's a big topic to talk about what the torque vectoring differential does, but in a simple way, I demonstrated in one of my videos as well, and how it really allows you to get so much control on the nose, on how you want the nose to really just go exactly where, and then you could really do a lot of play with the tail quite a lot as well. That the tail would really on your just like you by millimeters on your throttle would really make the tail really adjust. So it really gives you that really minute control over the tail, that you could really just with the steering and the throttle, you can really adjust how the car is really, the attitude of the car through the turn. That's just a simple effect of how the car behaves. I mean, the technical engineering details is a pretty long discussion, and I think that's for another topic. The other car, the base car, has the Torsen LSD, limited split differential. So that one locks in a certain way, and whenever it starts to detect slip, it would lock in a certain way, and then it would just kind of react to how the two wheels are getting traction, and then the locking behavior would change. But the torque vectoring differential, the difference is that it's more proactive than reactive. It would actually basically sense how you're trying to drive the car, and then it would give you that the torque on the back to really play with it. So it would happen in real time, right? So both of them are good options, whichever some people would like one. The simplicity of LSD is it's much lesser moving parts. The torque vectoring differential is a heavier unit as well, but it's more complex, a lot more computers, a lot more sensors. So but I personally like TVD, and I showed it in my video. The Track Edition also has the LSD as well, as opposed to the torque vectoring differential. So and then onto the front, I think that this is a heat extractor. This is not actually it doesn't suck air. It actually brings in air from here, and then it would extract it, send it over the roof. And then the hood has a huge bulge on there. It's not so much to make the engine sits pretty low, so you would say like, okay, why does it have so much space? It's because of the hot air rises to the top, so you want to have enough space for it to really be extracted out. So that's why it's sort of like the space in the hood bulge kind of work with the heat extractor. And there's also these brake heat extractors here. So these are actually functional. There are ports behind it. If you take this whole panel out, you will see the ports. I believe the ISF didn't have the functional one. They were just sort of like meant for aesthetics and more aggression. So these ones actually have ports that you actually have. Actually, sorry, these are not brake heat extractors. These are from the engine. So if you look at the engine bay, you will see the ports are actually routed towards the engine. And then we talked about six piston front brakes, and then the size is 9 on the front, 9 inches on the front, and then 10 inches on the rear, 19 inches in diameter. And the tires are Michelin Pilot PS4S tires that I have, and then 255 on the front, and then 275s on the. I've stuck with the stock size. So these are, I have the optional triple LED lights. These are pretty amazing lights. I really like them. They actually have really, compared to the traditional HID lights, these ones have much stronger, and then they look really cool as well. I have it on my RX over there too as well. So that one is a fully spec'd out RX 350 F Sport. So just coming into the interior, I believe one of the easiest things you could do when you were looking for an RCF to see what options are, you could always look at this panel over here. If you have a lot of options, you could see it like mine. It's like all of them have buttons here. Some of the lower spec RCFs, they would have just kind of like just only blank covers there. So so mine has the TVD here. You could see the TVD button. If you could toggle through 3 modes: normal, slalom, and then track. So track is when you would actually use it on the racetrack. Slalom, I find it best for the streets. It's very lively, very tail happy with slalom. Normal, I think I don't really use normal. I believe it always tries to angle for best stability and best 50-50 distribution. So that's what it really wants to do, but I think that's kind of I like slalom the most. So I have the Mark 11s, and I probably don't really care for it. I mean, I probably would have been happier without it would have shed probably about 20 pounds or something like that. Not that it matters, but I just never use it because the car is meant for driving experience, not really, Mark Levinson kind of doesn't really, I want to listen to the engine sound and stuff, right? So that's what the car is. That's why I bought this over an M4, because of the visceral experience, the high revs. So this one revs pretty high. I mean, think about it, it's 5 liters, big engine, but it revs so fast that it's pretty amazing how Lexus made it so that the car engine is just so, internals are so light on the second generation that was created for the RCF, and then it was later on inherited by the GSF, the LC500, and the IS500. So the engine was R&D in this way that it was actually taken, the ISF engine was taken as a base engine, but then they essentially redesigned the entire engine. I believe the only thing that is shared between the two cars are the base block. Everything else has been, the internals were lightened, it revs higher, so it's a lot more lighter internal, so it's the throttle response is faster. So I've driven the ISF as well. It's a different character between the two different engines. They sound different as well. So, and then obviously this one stock from factory is about 95 horsepower per liter of specific output. So that's pretty high for a 5 liter. You're almost hitting 100 horsepower per liter of displacement, so that's pretty close to, and it's a big engine, 5 liter. The older days E92 M3 had like over 100 horsepower per liter, but it was a 4-liter V8 small engine when the ISF was competing against that. So it's kind of like it's hitting almost that 100 horsepower per liter, but you have a 1-liter bigger displacement. So bigger displacement means more inertia. So it's more difficult to make the engine rev faster and lighter. So Lexus accomplished that. It's a big engineering feat in my opinion. It's basically the compression is very high on the RCF. It's about 12.5 to 1. It's very sensitive to the octane level that you put into the car. I've seen it happen where octane 91 versus 94 has a pretty big effect on this car. Also my other Lexus as well, which have the 3.5 liter V6 direct injected engines. They are pretty high, not as high a compression as this engine, but those ones have as well. At octane 91, the car does feel a lot more dull and a lot more lethargic. Does not have that eager and overly explosive type of behavior, and it's something that I noticed in my other cars as well. With this one, it's like 94 is just, I think that's the only fuel I usually put. This one has a 12.5 to 1 compression ratio, almost 13 to 1, so that's a really high. I believe the other ones I have, the IS350 S Sport and RX350 S Sport, both of them have in the 11s, which is still pretty high. My RX actually, when I bought it, it had regular fuel and it felt really very lethargic. And then I put octane 94, and then I was pretty surprised that the difference was pretty astronomical. So I've got carbon fiber trim pieces in here. So you could see there's carbon fiber. There's this ambient lighting. You can see here. This was actually removed in the 2020 plus RCF refresh, so you won't find it in there. So there are a few things, like this one has the all the heated and cooled / air conditioned seats, and then you got the heated steering wheel, and then all the other radar, cruise control, and all that stuff I don't really use. For me, it's just the car is about driving, so I don't want to use this cruise control, because if I'm doing that, I will be using my RS350 S Sport. Even in that case, I just like driving when I like to focus on the driving aspect and be involved and engaged with the car. So yeah, there's Alcantara here as well. So yeah, all in all, I think that's kind of a summary of the car. The seats on the RCF were designed specifically for this car. Now I have the F Sport seats as well, which is on the RX350 F Sport you see over there, and then the other IS350 and the RX350. So those ones are softer. They have more softer plush feel. They both, I believe the IS350 S Sport has the New Lux material, but I believe my RX350 S Sport has the real leather, and these are real leather as well. So, but as far as bolstering goes, these F seats that were designed for the RCF are obviously way better. When you're pulling high G's in turns and stuff like that, then these seats are really going to hold you straight up. Those ones don't have this much bolstering. They're softer. These ones are more harder, so it makes the car feel a little bit more stiffer and more harsher, because the seats are more stiffer. Not necessarily because the car is like crazy stiff or anything, but yeah, I think my car is stiffness wise, my car has the 2015 and 2016 were the fixed damper. I have AVS on my other two cars, and this one in 2017 up until the last model year, it had what's known as the F-AVS. So F-AVS was Lexus created an adaptive variable suspension for the RCF, and it was different from the ones I have on my F Sport cars. So that one has a lot more dynamic capability and how many ways it could actually change the rebounding and compression rates, about 32, I believe. But I think generally I prefer having fixed suspension. My other two cars, I usually dial it up to the max and I just leave it there. Even in that case, they sometimes behave unexpectedly. I can't really understand their behavior and their algorithms that they have put in there, because sometimes I usually use the custom mode, in which I could keep the chassis and then the powertrain in the sport setting, and then also that way I could really leave it there. Even in Sport Plus, if I don't use custom, in Sport Plus it's doing unpredictable stuff. So I just don't like, sometimes I'm going over a bumpy surface, and I would think that it would absorb it, the rebounding and compression would adjust, but it would kind of not, and then it would be a bit bumpy over it, right? But when I'm taking a turn, I'm expecting the AVS to really be really making sure that the compression, if we go into a dip and then coming up on the compression, it would adjust the rebound. But it doesn't. Sometimes it just goes a bit, it goes low and then it springs back up, right? So the rebound doesn't really quite kick in soon. With this one, I always know exactly what the behavior is. I know always that the rebound and everything has been set from factory to handle those, because they were tuned on Nürburgring edition, Nürburgring racetrack, so where they're pretty nasty compressions. So if I go down, I know that it's not gonna mess around with the compression and the rebound. It would really stay very flat through the compression. It won't really bounce up or anything. So I think I like the non-AVS because it's stiff, but I know how to deal with it, and I know exactly how it's gonna behave. So I think that's kind of so I think the next episode I'll probably talk more about my future plans, and then also what I've done to the car. I have quite a few mods. So the stock horsepower, as we know, is about 472 or whatever. But I have a few mods that I've added or freed up, whichever way you look at it, whether it's freed up power or it's added power. But I've kind of done those things. They're not necessarily for me to make it faster. I don't really care too much about the speed. That's a byproduct. It's a bit of a benefit of that, but they're all basically centered around making the driving experience more enjoyable. That's what the focus of those mods are. Now they make it faster and more ferocious, then I think that's a big plus. But I think that's not what really the goal is. So I'll probably talk about those specific mods and break down each one of them, some the pros and cons of each one of them, which one I like more than the other one, because they all kind of have their own plus points, but some are more enjoyable than the other ones. So I think backseat is pretty decent in RCF. I put two baby seats in the back, so perfectly enjoyable car with kids and family and stuff. So RCF is kind of it's quite a different car than other Lexus cars, and I'll kind of explain to you why. It's the way I think I talked about how the chassis was designed around the idea of having a short deck lid on the back and having the ability to have wide axle, and then having a low cabin, so the roof is pretty low. I believe the height of the car is only 54 inches, I believe. So that is a standard sedan Lexus has. My IS 350 or any of the IS cars or the GS, they're about 57. So it's about a couple of 2 to 3 inches. And then there's a long hood and there's a short cabin, and then the roof is pretty low. So it's low, wide, and then long hood, so that the engine is kind of I'll probably show you the engine placement. The engine placement is pretty decent. I mean, it's not perfectly 50-50. Still a little bit more towards the front end than it is towards the rear, but it's pretty close to 50-50. So you could see that this is where the exact point is, where the front suspension is, and then you could see, if you draw the line from here to here, you will see everything behind this is more than about half of the engine is behind the front axle, and then so it's only this part that really hangs in front of the axle. So I believe for this specific model, the RCF Track Track Edition carbon fiber TVD, the weight distribution is it was measured by Savage Geese, about 53 front and 47 on the rear. So it's 53% of the weight is on the front, 47 is on the rear. So usually when you sit in the car, because the car's cabin is more towards the rear, you would kind of get it more closer to 50-50. So it's kind of a nice thing. You could kind of feel the balance in the car, that when you're turning, you can see that the car is pivoting on the back. So you could see the point where it's the car is pivoting and turning. It's really more closer to here than it is more to here, like in some of the more cars that are more nose heavy, and then they got like maybe 55% or 60% or 58% of the weight on the front. So this one would pivot a lot more on the rear. So I think that's kind of a big advantage of that. So yeah, I think that's kind of a bit of a summary of the RCF. I'll probably talk more about some of the key features. I don't want to make this video too long, and then basically I'll talk about my own spec of the RCF. I think maybe that's for the next time. So until next time, ciao.